Start the today's lecture. Please send your attendance in chat box. I am going to share store. I am going to save the chat box. Today's attendance is saved. Okay. Then we are going to share the screen. I am going to share the screen. Friends, is it screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Yes, PPT is shared. And in last lecture, we came here, that is characteristics of the operational amplifier. Characteristics of operational amplifier. See here. After the characteristics, we studied it in last lecture. The next point is the concept of the virtual ground. Then, what is the virtual ground? We have to study here. Sir, good morning. Okay. हाँ या की या okay. Yes sir, yes sir, yeah. ओके ओके. मी डिपार्टमेंटला यावरती फिजिक्सला. हा फिजिक्सला. हा काय अडचण नाही. शक्यतो लवकरच या जुन्या बिल्डिंग मध्ये आपल्या. हा फिजिक्सला. ओके ओके ओके. Then the concept of virtual ground. Then we know that what is the ground? The voltage where the earth is given, that is also known as an earthing, and voltage at the ground is the 0 volt, and all the voltages are measured with respect to ground. What means the virtual ground? Virtual ground means the point of the circuit where the voltage becomes 0, or voltage 0 will be at or will be measured at that point, that will be known as a virtual ground. Ideally, see here, I am taking the laser point. Okay. Ideally, the output of the op amp should be 0. Ideally, output, if there are the common inputs, the output should be 0. For these two input must be the same. Yes, common input means if both the inputs are the same. In case of operational amplifier, then its output should be 0, but it is theoretically, but it is ideally. Okay. For these two inputs must be same, and hence one of the input is considered to be low or at a ground potential, but the input is not actually grounded. Hence, see here. That is, consider that hence the one of the input considered to be low or at the ground potential. म्हणजे एक इनपुट ग्राउंड केला म्हणजे 0 इनपुट दिला, तर दुसऱ्याला सुद्धा आपल्याला 0 इनपुट दिला, ऍक्च्युअली 0 दिला, म्हणजे ग्राउंड केला, तर आपल्याला आउटपुट हा 0 मिळतो. मीन्स द कॉमन इनपुट्स आर रिजेक्टेड ॲट द आउटपुट. Common inputs cannot be amplified at the output, and this will be shown here. The second input, जर मी त्याला सेकंडला 0 दिला असेल आणि एक ग्राउंड केला असेल, म्हणजे उदाहरणार्थ आपण इथं काय घेतलं मित्रांनो, पेन घेतलं, पेन. आणि हा ऑप एम्प आपण ड्रॉ करतोय. एक टर्मिनल आहे ते नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग आहे, दुसरं आहे ते इन्व्हर्टिंग आहे. आणि समजा मी इन्व्हर्टिंग ग्राउंड केलं. इन्व्हर्टिंग मी काय केलं मित्रांनो सांगा? मी ग्राउंड केलं इन्व्हर्टिंग. ओके. आणि नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंगला मी 0 व्होल्ट दिलं, म्हणजे लाईक ग्राउंड केलं. तर आउटपुट जो आहे, व्ही आउट जो आहे मित्रांनो इथला, हा जो व्ही आउट आहे, हा व्ही आउट सुद्धा मला काय मिळणार आहे सांगा? 0 मिळणार आहे. कारण एक ग्राउंड आहे इथं, इथं एक टर्मिनल ग्राउंड आहे आणि इथं दुसरी टर्मिनल 0 ला जोडलेली आहे. म्हणजे ही दुसरी टर्मिनल काय झाली? व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड झाली. अँड दॅट विल बी नोन एज अन व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड हिअर. It is called as the virtual ground. Second terminal is known as an virtual ground. When the op amp is connected in negative feedback मध्ये जोडला, combination, negative feedback combination, that is the output connected to inverting terminal, try to produce the some voltage at the inverting input. See here, at the inverting node असं म्हटलेलं आहे. Just I am taking again the laser pointer. It is called as the virtual ground. This is the virtual ground. When the op amp is connected to the negative feedback combination, that is the output connected to inverting terminal, try to produce the same voltage at the inverting node. This happened because op amp has a very differential gain. It has very high differential gain. So to avoid the saturate, the output is either positive or negative side is the make their input will be the same potential. So when you apply input to inverting terminal and connect the feedback to the inverting node, non-inverting terminal will be grounded and will be acts as the virtual ground. See here. Again I am changing the diagram. Just erase all things. Again take the pen and consider this is the operational amplifier. The upper is the non-inverting input terminal, lower is the inverting input terminal. And inverting input terminal, just we grounded. And output is fed back to the input and to inverting input. Feeding back केलेला आहे मित्रांनो. इथं जो आउटपुट होता ना, फीडबॅकचे मी काल तुम्हाला लेक्चरच्या वेळेला डेफिनेशन पण सांगितलेली आहे. Feedback is if the small part of the output is feeding back to the input, injecting back to the input, that will be known as an feedback. There may be positive feedback if the same phase is there. That is the output and feedback signal has in same phase, that will be known as a positive feedback. In case of negative feedback, if the output and input are out of phase, 180 out of phase, that is in case of inverting input and output there is a phase shift of 180 out of phase, 180 degree phase shift, and this feedback is known as an inverting feedback or negative feedback. And consider V out or this operational amplifier is in negative feedback. Is it in negative feedback? It will be appeared in negative feedback because there will be the some part of output is fed back to the input, to the inverting input, and that will be the negative. There is the phase shift will be occur, If the input of the non-inverting input is positive half cycle, the output of the operational amplifier should be in negative half cycle. Okay, it means that here negative feedback is achieved. Okay, if the negative feedback is achieved, then the input to the non-inverting terminal, that will be the grounded, it is known as an virtual ground. It will be known as an virtual ground, and this virtual ground concept is to be explained here. That is the concept of virtual ground, that is the point of the circuit point, any point in the operational amplifier which acts like the earth, which acts like the ground, that will be known as an virtual ground. And this virtual ground concept is very very important, and many time the short note will be asked on the virtual ground, friend, and we have to write the short note answer of that short note. Okay, yes, go to the next slide. And here next slide shows that the concept of the virtual ground, how the virtual ground concept is to be shown here. Just I am taking the laser. In short, what is the virtual ground? It will be explained here in short. In short, a virtual ground is the result of a op amp trying to keep its two input terminal at the same potential when used a feedback circuit. What is that? Here the virtual ground is explained. हा बोल मामा. एक दीड वाजेपर्यंत आहे. या की या. Okay. In short, a virtual ground is the result of the operational amplifier trying to keep its. That is, virtual ground is trying to keep. तो काय करतोय? प्रयत्न करतोय कशाचा? With keeping its two input at the same potential when used in feedback circuit. Feedback circuit is that is feeding output back to the input, injecting output back to the input, that is known as a feedback. It may be positive feedback if the output is connected to non-inverting input. It may be there is the negative feedback if output is connected to the inverting input. It will be known as a negative feedback. See here. So when non-inverting, that is positive terminal, is held at a ground, also inverting terminal negative is at the same potential of the ground, then the input current will be flow toward the ground potential but not to the op amp input terminal. Since they do, the concept of the sink current, that will be known as a sink current here. See here. What will be doing here? That is, the output will be connected back to the input. See again, to explain the concept of the virtual ground, it is slightly typical concept. Also, it is difficult concept to understand. But simply, you consider that there is the operational amplifier, and if the output is feeding back to the input to non-inverting terminal, that is positive, then positive feedback was arises. Okay. If their input is given to that terminal, that input becomes the virtual ground. That input become the virtual ground. Here, in short, the virtual ground is the result of an op amp trying to keep its two input terminal at the same potential when used in a feedback circuit. when used in feedback circuit. So when, again write, again read here. So when non-inverting positive terminal is held at negative, is held at a ground, positive, non-inverting positive terminal is held at ground, and also inverting terminal is at the same potential of the ground. Also inverting terminal is held at a ground potential, that is zero potential. Then its current will be flow toward the ground, that will be known as a sink current. So ground potential, which is actually cannot the sink current, is called as a virtual ground. Virtual ground म्हणजे काय आहे बघा. अगेन जर मी डायग्राम ड्रॉ करायची म्हटली मित्रांनो, तर मी डायग्राम ड्रॉ करतो. हा येतो पुन्हा मी मगाशी म्हटल्याप्रमाणे ऑपरेशनल एम्प्लिफायर, नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग टर्मिनल, इन्व्हर्टिंग टर्मिनल. मी इन्व्हर्टिंग टर्मिनलला मध्ये रेजिस्टन्स जोडला आणि हे आउटपुटला जोडलं, आउटपुट फीडबॅक केला आणि इनपुट नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग टर्मिनल मी ग्राउंड केली, ग्राउंड केली. Here is the zero potential, but this is negative feedback also give here zero potential. That is, non-inverting terminal is already grounded, but here inverting terminal input is also acts as the ground potential or zero potential, and here the virtual ground concept is very essential. That is, the potential, here potential, I am erasing all. Here the potential of the inverting input terminal become zero, acts as the zero. Here come to the next figure, and that next figure is very essential figure. Figure is 4.14, shows a typical circuit of operational amplifier. This is the typical circuit of operational amplifier. Inverting amplifier, that is the inverting amplifier means it is negative terminal and output is fed back to the negative terminal through the resistances, through the two resistances, and hence that will be known as a negative feedback. Negative feedback when output is connected to the inverting terminal, the type of feedback achieved, that is the negative feedback. Since the op amp has a very high open loop gain, op amp has very high open loop gain, है, that is output voltage input चा जो ratio है, तो ratio high है. The amplifier acts to make the potential difference between input tends to zero. आता इनपुट मधला पोटेन्शियल डिफरन्स जे आहे तो झिरो होणार आहे. झिरो होणार आहे म्हणजे काय होणार आहे सांगा. मी पुन्हा इथं पेन घेतो. हे टर्मिनल, इनपुट टर्मिनल आणि हे टर्मिनल यांचं पोटेन्शियल हे झिरो होणार आहे आणि यांचं पोटेन्शियल झिरो होणार आहे. पण ऑलरेडी नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट ग्राउंडला जोडलेले आहे. ग्राउंड आहे बघा, हे ग्राउंडला जोडलेलं आहे. पण इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुटला काही जोडलेलं नाही आहे, फक्त आउटपुट फीडबॅक केलाय, ओपन लूप आहे आणि निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक अचीव केलेला आहे. आणि अशा वेळेला इथलं इनपुटचं व्होल्टेज, इथलं व्होल्टेज आणि इथलं व्होल्टेज हे दोन्ही समान होत आहेत, म्हणजे 0 व्होल्ट होतं. 0 व्होल्ट म्हणजे किती 0 व्होल्ट होत आहे, म्हणजे इथलं नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंगचं इनपुट व्होल्टेज it will be grounded already, but potential across the inverting input terminal it becomes 0. it try to become 0. Means that this terminal is grounded already, but this terminal is acts like the virtual ground. This terminal will be acts like the virtual ground, means it exhibiting the 0 potential. It exhibiting 0 potential. It will be showing 0 potential. See here. Again, to achieve a reasonable voltage at the output, to achieve the reasonable voltage at the output supplies the non-inverting input. Output supplies the non-inverting input via feedback. Feedback दिलेला आहे बघा, output हे inputला जोडलेला आहे. With the enough voltage to reduce the potential difference between the input to microvolts. Here the potential difference across the input should be microvolt. Microvolts, that is, it will be less. It will be less, very less. The non-inverting positive input of the operational amplifier is grounded. That is the non-input. That is the non-inverting input is grounded here. It will be shown here. It will be grounded. It will be grounded. Therefore, its inverting input, although not connected to ground, it will be exhibit the potential of the ground. It is lightly tough, but we have to understand it. What will be concept here? Again, I am erasing all things and try to explain you again. Consider here that this non-inverting input is grounded here, grounded. And due to ground here is the 0 volt. But here that is 0 volt. But here as output is fed back to the input. Just a minute. How in? होय सक्ते सम होय काय? नाही आता सक्ते सरांचा फोन झाला, अगोदर बँकेतनं जाऊन येऊया म्हटलं. सरांना मी बर ठीक आहे, काय अडचण नाही. ओके 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 ओके. See here, friends, that is non-inverting input here. That non-inverting input is grounded and output voltage here we out, and that output voltage is fading back through resistance to the inverting input. That is negative feedback, because here if positive half cycle will be observed, here we will be observing negative half cycle. Okay, at this voltage is the V1 voltage, and here in negative feedback to the inverting input, due to it we know that its gain is very high. That is output voltage divided by input. That in case of non-inverting inverting input, it will be very high. And due to that, that is the output voltage divided by input voltage here. That is since the op amp has very high open loop gain is very high. Okay, and the amplifier acts that make potential difference between input tends to 0. त्यामुळं हे व्होल्टेज इथं येत आहे मित्रांनो आणि इथलं व्होल्टेज पुढे जात आहे पण आउटपुट मागे येतोय म्हणजे इथं फेडिंग बॅक केलेलं आहे अँड फेडिंग बॅक आहे आउटपुट व्होल्टेज इथं जास्त आहे इथं इनपुट व्होल्टेज कमी आहे आणि इनपुट व्होल्टेज कमी आहे म्हणजे नियरली इक्वल टू 0 आहे नियरली इक्वल टू 0 व्हेरी व्हेरी लेस इट इज नियरली इक्वल टू 0 आणि मग आता बघा इथलं व्होल्टेज 0 इथलं व्होल्टेज ग्राउंड म्हणजे हे दोन्ही जवळजवळ 0 आहेत जवळजवळ 0 आहेत म्हणून हे जे टर्मिनल आहे आणि हे टर्मिनल याला काय म्हणता येईल आपल्याला व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड असं म्हणता येईल बिकॉज इट्स इट्स voltage will be nearer to 0 its voltage will be nearer to 0 its voltage will be very very small its voltage will be very very less and very very less is nearer to 0 and that terminal will be acts as an virtual ground and this is the basic concept of the virtual ground friends you understand well the virtual ground concept please reply me you understand the virtual ground please reply me
Yes, sir.
Shweta, thank you. Again, we are going to the next, that is necessity for the negative feedback. Negative feedback ची necessity काय आहे? What will be effect on a operational amplifier if we achieve negative feedback? If the negative feedback was achieved, well, what will be the effect? What will be the effect on a differential amplifier or the operational amplifier? We have to see in this point. See here. Just I am taking the laser. When output of the operational amplifier is connected to its inverting input, means negative input, and the voltage signal is applied to the non-inverting terminal or the input, then output voltage of the op amp closely follows the input stage if it is called as a negative feedback. जर अशी डायग्राम बघा मित्रांनो काय केले बघा नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुटला काहीतरी व्होल्टेज दिलंय आणि आउटपुट व्होल्टेज हे कोणाला फीडबॅक दिलंय इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुटला दिलंय म्हणजे निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक केलेला आहे निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक का तर इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट आणि आउटपुट ऑफ द डिफरन्शियल एम्प्लिफायर they will be out of phase signal phase between these two terminal is 180 out of phase and hence here negative feedback was produced and just in this case where output is fading back to the input of the operational amplifier to which terminal to inverting terminal and only supply is given to the non-inverting terminal supply is given to some voltage input is given to the non-inverting terminal then in following figure as Vn increases just Vin increase केलं मित्रांनो just Vin increase केलं मी increase केलं वाढवलं just Vin increases V out will be increases in accordance with the differential gain आणि जर मी Vin increase केलं तर काय increase होतंय बघा मित्रांनो काय increase होतंय बघा इथं काय increase होतंय just Vin increases the V out will be increases in accordance with the differential gain what is the differential gain differential gain is V out divided by V in, and V out divided by V in हा पूर्णांक असतो, हा जास्त असतो, व्हेरी हाय असतो आणि त्याच्या रेंज मध्ये काय वाढत जातं, V in वाढत जातं. However, as the V out increases, that output voltage feedback to the inverting input, and which decreases the voltage differential between inputs, and hence the output voltage is reduced. काय होतंय बघा मित्रांनो, V in जसा वाढेल तसा V out वाढतो, and how your V out increases, that output voltage is feedback to the inverting input, and which decreases the voltage differential between inputs, and the output voltage was reduced. काय होतंय बघा, याच्यामध्ये डिफरन्स बिटवीन टू व्होल्टेज वॉज रिड्यूस होतो. इथं जे व्होल्टेज दिलेलं आहे त्याच्या प्रमाणात इथं आउटपुट मिळतो. कुठं आउटपुट मिळतोय बघा, इथं आपण इनपुट व्होल्टेज दिलेलं आहे, त्यामुळे आउटपुट व्होल्टेज मिळतंय, ते फेडिंग बॅक केलेलं आहे. इट विल बी फेड बॅक, आणि फीडबॅक केल्यामुळं या दोघांच्यातला V इनपुट आणि इनपुट फेडिंग बॅक टू द इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट, या दोघांच्या मधला डिफरन्स कमी होतो. डिफरन्स ऑफ द व्होल्टेज कमी होतं, अँड हेन्स इनफ व्होल्टेज डिफरन्स इज लेफ्ट बिटवीन V in and negative input of अभाव, अपभाव किंवा निगेटिव्ह इनपुट टू द एम्प्लिफायर टू जनरेट द आउटपुट. आणि इथं मात्र आउटपुट व्होल्टेजचा डिफरन्स हा कमी होतो, अँड वी नो that is the difference in the input will be amplified at the output in case of operational amplifier. In case of operational amplifier, what will be we amplify? What will be the basic characteristic of the differential amplifier? It can amplify the difference in inputs, and here difference in inputs become very less, and hence amplification will also reduces. Amplification will also reduces. With a negative feedback, next point, just taking the laser. With a negative feedback, the circuit quickly reach to the point of stability. Circuit will be reached to the point of stability, and where the output is just right amount to the maintain right amount of differential, and which turns the right amount of output. Right amount of output gives the right amount to input, which was the fading back in negative feedback. Due to the rate, the right amount of the difference will be present there, and which gives the right amount of amplification factor, which was produced at the V out. At the V out. Also, negative feedback acts as the self-stabilizing system. That is the stabilization. What is stabilization? That is, output should be constant. If in the circuit output will be constant or the so constant, if the input is the variable, input is increasing, variable, input is the variable, and output of that circuit is the constant, then that circuit is known as a regulator or the stabilizer, and which will be worked as the stabilizer. Just we are know that the work of stabilization or the application of stabilization in day to life, that is the TV stabilizer, and also the freeze stabilizer or the different stabilizer. Because in stabilizer, if the input from the MSCB will be very high, if the input from MSCB, which was going to supply the AC main in our house, it will be high, increased. The stabilizer will be stabilize the output. It will be it will be keep, it will keep constant the output of its output should become constant. If the input is high, stabilizer try to keep output constant. If input is low, again stabilizer is does not able to help here because it has no technology like the UPS, uninterrupted power supply. An uninterrupted power supply give the constant output if the input is varying. If the input is high, it become the constant by the stabilizer. If the input is very low, it will be increased in case of UPS, but in case of stabilizer, it has no facility to increase. It has only facility to decrease the input amount. But uninterrupted power supply, but UPS system, uninterrupted power supply will be increased if the input is low or decrease if the input is high. It means that if input is high, the stabilization process try to keep output will be constant. If the input is low, here also UPS system of the stabilizer will be try to keep the output constant. This is the dual nature. This will be the dual nature and it have to accept we. Here also negative feedback acts like the stabilizing system. Not only stabilizing system, but it will be the UPS system. It is uninterrupted power supply system. And in op-amp, there is the last statement. In op-amp with the negative feedback, the actual voltage gain may be very large. Negative feedback makes the self-correcting system self-correcting. An operational amplifier with the negative feedback will try to drive its output voltage with the legal or the levels necessary to the differential stage of this amplifier. Just here the application will be noted. Here we are going to explain the application of the stabilization. And if we are going to use the battery, then only, if we are going to use the battery, and then only the output of the stabilizing system should be constant or the very constant. Thus higher op amp differential gain, the closer the differential voltage will be zero and the negative feedback is unusually called as an closed loop gain. It will be known as an closed loop gain. Closed loop gain that is here we are making the loop. Loop is the starting and ending point is the same, is known as an loop. Loop is the starting and ending point are the same and that will be the loop. And closed loop where the output is fed back to the input and that loop arrangement will be known as a closed loop gain. That will be known as a closed loop gain and the closed loop gain is very small in case of differential amplifier. Friends, here here we explained the concept of the virtual ground and just I told you that the question, the short question for the necessity of the virtual ground or necessity of the negative feedback, it have to be asked for the examinationला आपल्याला हे विचारलं जाण्याची शक्यता आहे. एक्झामिनेशन मध्ये मी सांगितलं तुम्हाला एक तर निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक काय आहे, पॉझिटिव्ह फीडबॅक काय आहे, आणि त्याचबरोबर व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड काय आहे आणि नेसेसिटी ऑफ व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड काय आहे, या सगळ्या गोष्टी आपल्याला या पॉइंटमध्ये सांगितलेल्या आहेत. ओके, मला सांगा, मी 3 गोष्टी सांगितल्यात. पुन्हा थोडस मी माग जातो. इथं सांगितलेलं आहे कन्सेप्ट ऑफ व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड. इथं कन्सेप्ट ऑफ व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड एक्सप्लेन केलेला आहे, आणि इथं मात्र नेसेसिटी ऑफ निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक in operation of operational amplifier, in working of operational amplifier will be explained with the diagram. Here I am erasing all things and going to last topic of this chapter, that is applications of the op-amp. We know that operational amplifier, it will be very applicable in case of in application to perform the various operations in case of mathematics. That is addition, subtraction. These are the basic. Multiplication, division are very basic. But here the operational amplifier can be used to perform the logical operations like the gates, that is AND gate, then NAND gate, NOR gate, OR gate, exclusive OR gate and exclusive NOR gate, and basically NOT gate. And all these applications are known as an logical operations. Again, this operational amplifier can be used to perform the different mathematical operation like the derivative and integration is very interesting application. And here the differential amplifier can be used as the differentiator. The differentiator who can differentiate the input. Integrator, it will be used as an integrator. It means that here the operational amplifier can be used as a integrator. Okay, friends, just wait for 2 minutes. I will be back in 2 minutes, uh, because our head Dr. S.J. Ladesar is calling me. I am coming in 2 minutes. Do not leave the meeting. Thank you. Okay, friends. Okay, friends. Please talk with me. Are you there present?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Aishwarya. Okay, thank you. Then we are switching toward the different application, and I am talking about the applications of the operational amplifier. We know that operational amplifier can be used to perform the different mathematical operations like the integrations and in differentiation. Here, that operational amplifier will be known as a differentiator and integrator. Again, it will be used to perform the logarithmical operation. Again, it will be used to perform the exponential operations. It also used to perform the trigonometric operations, different trigonometric operations. It means that in different where in computer operation where the mathematical operations are came for that mathematical operation to perform that mathematical operations, the differential amplifier was essentially used. Here, the first applications of the op amp. First application is inverting amplifier. Inverting amplifier means that is output is connected back to negative terminal. That is inverting input terminal. Just here shown. That is the output was connected back to the input, and that input is the negative input, and positive terminal is grounded. Positive terminal is grounded here. See here, that is terminal 2 is grounded. Here input voltage, here input voltage is V1 आहे V1 इथं V1 दिलेला इनपुट व्होल्टेज अँड आउटपुट टर्मिनल हे फीडबॅक केलेलं आहे इथं 1 ला आलेलं आहे. R1 आणि R0 दोन पोटेन्शियोमेट्रिक अरेंजमेंट दिसत आहेत, दोन पोटेन्शियोमेट्रिक अरेंजमेंट. R1 मधून जो करंट फ्लो होतोय त्याला I1 म्हटलेला आहे, R0 मधून जो करंट फ्लो होतो त्याला I0 असं म्हटलेलं आहे. V0 हा आउटपुट आहे आणि VS इज द डिफरन्स, या दोघांच्या मधला डिफरन्स आहे. इन्व्हर्टिंग आणि नॉन इन्व्हर्टिंग व्होल्टेज मधला डिफरन्स आहे VS. Shows the circuit diagram of operational amplifier as an inverting amplifier. If only one input is applied to the input terminal, then it is called as an inverting amplifier. If only one input is applied to the input terminal, then it is called as an inverting amplifier. Means that non-inverting input is connected to ground, that is connected to the ground, other terminal is connected to grounded, and only input is given to the inverting input terminal, and that will be fading back. Okay. The positive input terminal is grounded and input voltage is V1. Input voltage is V1. Input voltage V1. Positive terminal grounded. Is applied to the negative input terminal of the amplifier through resistor R1. हे V1 दिलेलं आहे, रेजिस्टर R1 मधून दिलेला आहे. The negative feedback is applied through R0 from output terminal to the input terminal. निगेटिव्ह फीडबॅक ह्या R0 मधून इथं दिलेला आहे. हा कॉम्बिनेशनल पॉइंट आलेला आहे. आता गंमत बघा मित्रांनो, हे V1 आहे, हे V1 दिलेलं आहे, R1 मधून पास होतं आणि इथं 1 टर्मिनलला येतं. आणि हा आउटपुट आहे, आउटपुट R0 मधून पास होतो आणि इथं येतो. आणि या दोघांच्या मधला डिफरन्स जो आहे तो Vs आहे. या दोघांच्या मधला डिफरन्स जो आहे तो Vs आहे. V1 इनपुट व्होल्टेज आहे, Vs डिफरन्शियल व्होल्टेज आहे. आता गंमत बघा इथं काय आहे, the feedback register is R0 and input register is R1. Means that this is feedback resistance, that is output is feeding back to the input, and this is the input register. Determine the inverting operation, and for the ideal operational amplifier, open loop gain is infinite. Open loop gain, output voltage divided by input voltage, is infinite. Infinite म्हणजे इनपुट व्होल्टेज काय असलं पाहिजे मित्रांनो, इनपुट व्होल्टेज हे 0 असलं पाहिजे. इनपुट व्होल्टेज हे 0 असलं पाहिजे. Hence, the potential difference between input terminal must be 0. Potential difference input terminal must be 0 म्हणजे Vs must be 0. म्हणजे काय असणार मित्रांनो, या दोघांच्या मधला जो डिफरन्स आहे, या दोघांच्या मधला जो डिफरन्स आहे, Vs जो आहे तो Vs 0 असणार आहे. हा Vs म्हणजेच हा Vs हा 0 असणार आहे मित्रांनो, हा 0 असणार, 0. By negative feedback around the amplifier, again input impedance of the ideal amplifier is infinite. Input impedance म्हणजे resistance. Input impedance should be infinite. Input impedance should be infinite, and hence the input current of the amplifier will be 0. Input current will be, amplifier will be 0. And here जर इनफायनाइट असेल इनपुट, इथं बघा इनपुट इम्पेडन्स ऑफ द एम्प्लिफायर जर इनफायनाइट असेल, जर रेजिस्टन्स इनफायनाइट असेल तर करंट आपोआपच 0 होईल. त्यामुळे करंट हा 0 झाला मित्रांनो. त्यामुळे करंट हा काय झाला, that is the current will be 0. Vs will be 0. Indicating terminal 1 has same potential to 2, आणि 1 and 2 मधला 1 हा व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड झाला, हा 1 व्हर्च्युअल ग्राउंड झाला, हा 1 हा ग्राउंड असल्यासारखा भासवू लागला म्हणजे काय झालं सांगा, Vs 0 झालं. Vs 0 झालं आणि मग आपण बघणार आहे ते एक डेरिवेशन छोटस बघणार आहे. आणि डेरिवेशन काय सांगते बघा, हेन्स I1 is equal to I0. इथं जर बघितलं तुम्ही I1 is equal to I0, I1 is equal to I0 असं जर असलं तरच हा इकडे येतोय मित्रांनो, हा इकडे येतोय आणि हा इकडे जातोय, आणि दोन्ही करंट समान असले तरच आउटपुट आपल्याला 0 मिळणार आहे. त्यामुळे इथं लिहिलं मी I1 is equal to I0. I1 म्हणजे काय, V is equal to IR. I बरोबर V डिवायडेड बाय R. V म्हणजे काय आहे मित्रांनो, व्होल्टेज आहे. आणि व्होल्टेज म्हणजे किती येतं बघा, हॅलो, हा सगळं सगळं करू नकोस. अरे पण त्या ह्याचे पैसे पण द्यायला पाहिजेत ना. त्या बनसोडे साहेबांचं काय पाठवूया का नको, विचारायला नको का त्याला. हा कर, आणि किती राहतात अजून. हा मग ते थांब, आता 1,00,000 रुपये ट्रान्सफर कर फक्त. आणि परवा किती दिलेस त्याला, का काही दिलेलेच नाहीस. हिशेब केलायस का तू, 1,50,000 रुपये ना. ओके 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 ठीक आहे, मग ते थांबव आणि त्याला तेवढीच पाठव आता. 1,00,000 पाठव. ओके ओके ओके. See here, friends here, this is the, just I am taking the laser. This is I1 and voltage is here. व्होल्टेज म्हणजे काय आलं, Vs मायनस V1. Vs मायनस V1 आलं आणि इथलं व्होल्टेज काय येईल, Vo मायनस Vs येईल. आणि पलीकडे गेल्यानंतर आपल्या लक्षात येईल that is the V1 minus Vs divided by R1 and Vs minus Vo divided by R0. But Vs is equal to 0. इथं Vs ची व्हॅल्यू 0 0 पुटअप केली मी. V1 divided by R1 minus 0 0 minus V1 divided by R0. Vs दोन्ही ठिकाणी आपण 0 0 पुटअप केला. काय मिळालं बघा, मी V1 divided by R1 minus V0 divided by R1. मी काय करतोय, V0 डिवायडेड बाय V1 मला घेतोय, म्हणजे आउटपुट डिवायडेड बाय इनपुट घेतोय, म्हणजे गेन काढतोय. मग V0 इथं आहे डिवायडेड बाय हे V1 इथं घेतलं, म्हणजे हा R0 इथं आला आणि याला मी मायनस साइन गुणलं, म्हणजे इथं मायनस मायनस प्लस झालं आणि इथं मायनस झालं. आपल्याला काय मिळालं बघा, इथं V0 डिवायडेड बाय V1 इज इक्वल टू मायनस R0 डिवायडेड बाय R1 आलं. आणि V0 डिवायडेड बाय V1 म्हणजे क्लोज्ड लूप गेन आहे. ACL म्हणजे क्लोज्ड लूप गेन आहे आणि क्लोज्ड लूप गेन आपल्याला काय मिळाली बघा, दॅट इज द मायनस R0 डिवायडेड बाय R1 मिळालं आणि दॅट इज द इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट एम्प्लिफायर गेन आहे. क्लोज्ड लूप गेन ऑफ इन्व्हर्टिंग एम्प्लिफायर. द निगेटिव्ह काय आहे सांगा, तर इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट आपण मागे दिलेलं आहे. आउटपुट इज फेडिंग बॅक टू द इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुट. इन्व्हर्टिंग इनपुटला आपण इनपुट फीडबॅक केलेलं आहे, त्यामुळे आपल्याला मिळेल काय बघा, इट इज द निगेटिव्ह बिकॉज क्लोज्ड एम्प्लिफायर रिव्हर्स द साइन ऑफ द इनपुट सिग्नल, that is the output that is the output is the out of phase with the input. Output is the out of phase with the input and hence the closed loop gain in case of inverting amplifier of an operational amplifier, it will be equal to minus R0 divided by R1. Minus R0 divided by R1. Here friends, here we complete the one application. In next period, we see the remaining three application, like the integrator, like the differentiator, like the adder, and like the non-inverting input. We stop here. If you have any confusion, any difficulty, then session is open for defense or the discussion. Please ask me. Meanwhile, please submit your attendance in chat box. That will be the final attendance. Submit the final attendance in chat box, and if anyone has confusion, then please ask me. Just I am stopping to share the screen. अनिकेत, ऐश्वर्या, काही प्रॉब्लेम आहे का?
नाही सर.
ओके. प्रतीक्षा,
हा सर.
काही प्रॉब्लेम?
नाही सर.
सगळ्यांनी सबमिट केला का अटेंडन्स?
हो सर.
चला, तुमचे काही प्रॉब्लेम नसेल तर आपण लिव्ह होऊया. यानंतर लादे सर घेणार आहेत. ओके. कोण शेवटी आता कोणी पाठवला? श्रुती. सगळ्यांनी पाठवला का अटेंडन्स? सगळ्यांनी पाठवला का अटेंडन्स? साक्षी,
येस सर.
अटेंडन्स पाठवला?
हो सर.
ओके ओके. Yes, I am leaving the meeting, friends.